We are wondering what it is.
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam.
Are you a finance professional? Or an accounting student, but not so sure of your
Good morning, dear participants. Now we'll be beginning with the session 2, that will be handled by Dr. Shaik Abdul Rahman. I invite Professor Lakshmi to introduce us to the speaker.
It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Shaik Abdul Rahman, who is going to talk about the Industrial Revolution 4.0 Engineering Skills for Future. Currently, Sir is working as Chief Executive Officer and member of Executive Board for Techno World Group International, Hyderabad, since 1997. He has obtained his PhD and Masters in International Business Management. Over his 22 years of experience, he has traveled more than 65 countries and has worked in major countries of Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. He has received various awards for his professional excellence from United Nations Organization, Siemens, Nokia, Fortinet, amongst others. Prior to Sir's appointment as CEO, he held many senior roles in Siemens Germany, Nokia Siemens Networks, that is NSN, Middle East and Africa MEA, Regional Head of Information Security BL. During his employment with NSN, he was highly influential in the company meeting its annual sales targets over achieving several times year after year. He has carried forward to TWG his legacy from NSN of closing several high-profile deals with top-level executives of several blue-chip companies based in Middle East and Africa. He was president for GEMS Group based out of UAE. We are very happy to have you as our speaker for the session today, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You're audible.
All right. So first of all, I would like to thank Ramaiah management as well as Dr. Nisa for inviting me for this program. I think my spirited time is about 50 minutes. Is that right, sir? So I hope I will able to.
Sir, you have the session for 1 hour. Then we can now go for a question and answer session.
Right. So I hope I will able to cover up my slides within the given time. And today's topic, which has been given to me, is Industrial Revolution 4.0, Engineering Skills for Future. It's actually the topic is very vast. Coming slides, we will see basically, what is basically Industrial Revolution 4.0 and how it affects our lives as well as our working methodology going forward. So my talk will be more on industrial part rather than the academic, approach. I would ask if you have any questions during this my session, please type the questions. I think we will also have a end of the session. We will also have Q&A. With that, let me move forward. Here is basically my introduction is already given. I am Dr. Shaik Abdul Rahman. Currently, I am the CEO for TWG International, as well as I'm the president for Sustainable Development Goals, which is headed by United Nations. And I'm also the chapter for PSCB board in India. Having spent about 24 plus years in the industry in different roles, I've covered almost 65 plus countries in my past role. I was head of cybersecurity for Nokia in the EMEA region. With that, I just want to have why I have chosen this slide. This slide I have picked up from my album 2009, where I was visiting Finland, and at that time they were doing basically the research on 4G speed. So it is that Nokia has been a technology company, and they were always the heading the innovation in telecom space. So this image I have basically put here just to show that today we are in 2021, and now we are using the technology. Almost, if you calculate from 9 to 21, it's about 12 years. So 12 years before, the company was basically spending time and money and the resources and the investments into the technologies, which is a futuristic technology, right? So basically, I was from Nokia Telecom division, not the mobile devices division. So that is basically the background about the image. So with that, let me just state that dream is not what you see in the sleep. Dream is something which does not let you sleep. That's what Dr. Abdul Kalam says. With that, I would say that today India is heading toward Atma Nirbhar Bharat, where we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of technology innovation, a lot of industries, a lot of MNCs coming to India, and we have huge potential and growth possibilities in the country. With 4.0, there will be a paradigm shift into the industrial sector, which will have a huge impact on our lives as well as our work culture going forward. So let me have a quick introduction about what is 4.0, and then I will come to the main topic. So there are 4 revolutions that we see today. This is a history slide. 1.0 basically talks about the first industrial revolution used water and steam power to mechanize production. 2.0, that is the second industrial revolution, used electrical power to create mass production, as we all are aware. Third one, the third 3.0, used electronic and information technology to automate the production. This 3.0 has been a very impactful IR, industrial revolution, which we are passing through today. We are still in 3.0 and we are transiting toward 4.0. So what is basically 4.0? Fourth industrial revolution is building on the third revolution. As I said, the third revolution has been very important because in this IR, we have basically been introduced to information technology. the computer system, in the IT age we have entered in. So that has been taken as a legacy for 4.0 industrial revolution, which is building on third, of course. So the digital revolution that has been occurring since the middle of last century. And this is basically putting us a fusion of technologies, with 4.0, we see that, it is having a larger impact on our daily lives. So in terms of impact, in terms of physical, in terms of digital, as well as in terms of biological sphere. So that is basically a 4.0 industrial revolution which is coming through, and which we are passing through today as we speak. So this revolution, all right. So just make a note here that during my coming slides, we will be more focused on human-centric approach. So this revolution is nothing but it is human-centric revolution. We have been having industrial revolution in the past, but now we are moving toward human-centric revolution. That means this revolution is going to bring a major change the way we live, the way we work. So that is the main point of this 4.0 revolution. So let's look at basically where we've been coming from. Like, we are from hierarchy to we are talking about hierarchy today. It's all connected world. From task-based industry, we are moving from job-based industry, we are moving to task-based industry. Today, if you look at the industry dynamic has totally changed in terms of recruiting the people, in terms of having the skill set in the people. The companies are now looking at what are your specializations. Earlier, it is a job-based, the hiring process used to go on. Now, companies are looking for the specialization. If you are coming from civil industry, before the company hires you, they look for what is the specialization that you have. It's not the degree, it is more about the skills that you carry today. And we are moving from 8/5 to 10/4 time pattern from the working perspective. Similarly, we are moving from microscopes to data scopes. This is the big change basically which is coming in. This change is basically revolutionized the entire IT technology, the information technology, the digital system that is coming through. As well as we are moving from computer technology, the computer age, to AI ML age. This is a major area today. Indian government is spending a lot of time in this. They have set up the dedicated AI ML universities and colleges worldwide to focus on how the industry revolution will come. What will be the impact of artificial intelligence? What will be the impact of machine learning? So this has a huge impact going forward with the 4.0 industry. As well as we are moving from centralized to decentralized infrastructure. That is, all the IT infrastructures are now moving away from the central infrastructure to digital decentralized infrastructure. Similarly, we are moving away from suits to hoodies environment. We are moving from cubicle to a coach approach. We are going from free Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi free environment. That is the change which is coming with Industrial 4.0. And it is going to affect every individual's life. So today, TGIF to TGIM, that is, thanks God, it is Friday. Instead, we are going to move from thanks God, it is Monday. So that kind of work culture and work environment is going to change. From services, we are going to move to experiences. Services which are being offered by the industry, we will look at how best that service is being offered, not the service itself, right? Today we have internet. Today we have telecommunication. Today it's the age of information technology. So we basically we look basically as a customer. What we look for a service-based industry, which is providing you the better services, not just the service itself, right? So from career to careers, there are plenty of job opportunities in the industry where people have dual hat and dual roles to play. It's not just a single hat and single role. We are moving from dual hat to 12-role industry. Similarly, we are moving from green is red to green is green environment. So that is basically going to have a huge impact on the environment. So mass produce to me produce. It is an individual who is going to bring the change. It is not, of course, the industry will be there, but the innovation is so that every individual has a role to play in that. So people have an opportunity with 4.0 to come up with their ideas, to come up with their skill set, to come up with the innovative ideas which can be brought into existence. So of course, from recycling to circular economy. So that is the change we are talking about. Industry 4.0 is talking about all these major changes. It's a big thing, in single word. I'm just mentioning the word and going forward. But if you take and pick up one topic, we will have hours to spend on that. So this is the change which is coming, and we have to embrace the change. If we don't embrace the change, we will be out. We will not be accepted in the industry if we just go with the traditional skill set that we are acquiring from the academics. And if you try to go to the job industry, it will be very challenging in future, today and in future. Even I'm talking about today. Today, the industry mindset, industry hiring process, industry expectations from an individual has changed. I can spend hours and hours talking on careers, what are the opportunities, what are the different career opportunities for each individual or each sector in the industry. But since I will have to cover today my slide deck on 4.0, and if time permits, during a Q&A, we will take those questions. So what is that impact? It is actually 4.0 will be having an impact on all industries and all sectors, from human resource processes to factory infrastructure to supply chain system, and from engineering design tools to manufacturing and operations, in the industrial controls, the automation system. We are talking about all those bunch of the technologies which has been existing in the past. All those industries are going to be impacted with 4.0. This will have a major change in the way we've been living and the way we will be living tomorrow. If you look at the COVID-19 scenario today, before COVID-19, people, our attitude, our culture, our living way of was totally different. Whereas post-COVID, the people mindset have changed. We never thought that our children will study online. We never thought that this kind of conferences will easily take place online. This was not in our mindset, right? So that is the change which is coming. So 4.0 will have and going to basically impact every part of our life, every part of our work area and industries. It is going to impact every individual. It is going to impact every sector. It is going to impact every industry. Every industry have to adapt. Our earlier education system was more of a theoretical or bookish, knowledge that we used to gain. But what is now required in the industry is the skill set. The industry is looking at the engineers with, the specializations, with the value that they bring with them. So that is the change which is coming in. And this will basically have major impact in our education system going forward. We know that new education policy 2020 has come. This new education policy is having lots of areas where it talks about skills. It talks about new technologies. It talks about integrating education with the industries. So that is basically the change which is coming in. As I said, this will have an impact on our education system too. The way we've been studying in the past, that will change. So welcome to the Industrial Revolution 4.0. What it is basically, as we have seen just now, 1.0, we have seen there was a mechanical revolution. In 2.0, it was an electrical revolution. In 3.0, we had internet. We never thought we will have internet technologies, we will have smart gadgets, we will have this kind of online conferencing, what we are doing today. So 3.0 had a major impact already. It already hit our way of living. With 4.0, we will be digitalized. Let me add a point over here. The last Mobile World Congress in Barcelona has mentioned that today the world is having about 4 billion devices connected. By 2025, there are expected to be 30 billion devices connected onto internet, IoT. And that will have, lots of devices coming in from smart cities, smart, buildings, home automation system. That is basically, the industrial automation system, automobile sector, automation system. So that is basically going to bring a huge mass over the internet. 4G today unable to cater that required bandwidth, required speed. So we are actually from the information technology, the internet age space, we are moving from 4G to 5G. Here, the digital, the IR 4.0 is basically a digital, it will have a digital impact on every industry, which is 10 times, it is expected that the impact will be 10 times higher than any other revolution in the past. So that is basically blurring the line between physical, cyber, and digital world, the biological world. With that, if you look at all those three industrial revolutions, it has impact on industries. They were empowering the industries, industrial sector. Whereas Industry 4.0 will have impact on people. It is empowering people. It is helping every individual, every entrepreneur to come up with their ideas, and they can vote the idea. The idea, if it is innovative idea, if it hit the market, it's going to be in no time, the innovative idea will become a multi-billion-dollar company. So what are we talking about? We are talking about scalable efficiency. That is doing things right. We are moving to scalable adaptability, doing the right things. That is the change which is coming. And this change will have an impact, huge impact. I think with that introductory slides, basically, hopefully you got an idea about what are we going to discuss about, what are we going to talk about in coming slides. So 4.0 is all about you and me. It's about people, how we are going to embrace the technology, how this technology will change our lives, how the technology is going to change the work culture. That is the change coming with 4.0, and it's going to impact every industry, including construction industry, including civil industry. What I would do is basically I have a small video to play, and once video is over, we will continue with the slide. So enjoy the video, and I will resume the session again.
We are wondering what is happening to the world. Everything is changing.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high tech, we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
Inside our own heads is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe.
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
But that was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
With the ability to visualize brain activity, for example, through a simple consumer-based EEG device, it gives us access to ourselves in ways that we've never before thought possible. It unlocks the black box that is the brain and enables us to really, truly be able to realize an identity that is aspirational.
There's now a scientific foundation for the effects of mindfulness on the brain, on the genome, on biological aging. And when the human mind does know itself, then you get the potential for a new renaissance that restructures itself in terms of our relationship to life, our relationship to the planet, our relationship to work.
We need a different economic model. And by that, I don't mean capitalism versus communism. What I'm talking about is a shift in the system along the lines of the two big changes that happened in the 20th century, Keynesianism, with a much greater focus on health and education and the role of government working with business, and then a reaction against that in late century to neoliberalism, where the focus was on free markets, freedom of the individual, and getting governments out of the way. We need a shift to a new system that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, that will live within planetary means, that will be fairer, and that will be focused as its key goal, not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being. And history tells us that a values shift is triggered by creation of a new story about how we want to live.
I see the circular economy as something which fits very closely with mankind's goal to be innovative and creative and to always progress. We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to enable this different economic model to recover materials, feed them back into the economy, and really to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The reason we live in cities is not different today than it was 10,000 years ago. Even if we have got networks connecting us, we still want to have places where we meet in person. Well, this means the place where we work and the place where we live are much closer to each other, a city where we don't need to have big supply chains in order to produce things, where many things can be sourced locally thanks to 3D printing and robotics. So if we're able to do something to transform cities, to make them more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
Think about the prospect of getting rid of plastics. We must not only be inspired or informed by nature, but actually use natural organisms with which to design products and building parts. Only instead of varying material properties, we're varying biological functionality.
Design is critical today because it's the first signal of human intention. So the question of adding quality to quantity, it isn't a matter of simply circulating things that are potentially toxic. It's circulating things that are safe and healthy for all generations. So the goal is no longer, I want to be less bad, less monotonous, less unsafe, less unjust. It's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean energy.
Together we are fighting to preserve our fragile climate from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
If we think about the original Industrial Revolution, it was an energy revolution. I like to think of it as a kind of bookending of a period in human history during which we used fossil fuels, and it worked very well for us for a long time. But now we have to bring that to an end. We have energy technologies that can power our civilization: solar, wind, biomass. So then the question is, well, how do we get grid integration? Maybe the wind is blowing in Denmark, the sun is shining in Germany, and now you can move that electricity through an integrated grid. You can supply energy to everyone who needs it, and you can supply energy at all times.
Walking around, you do see different stuff as far as like the body marriage line. They use a lot of things that help them lift up and move things to the car. You just sit there and, you know, program something, and it has its own set mind to go ahead and do everything. And then as humans, we just come in and take the extra step to help the technology.
It's not the cure-all for everything. There's definitely a lot of things where people perform the operation better, but certainly for the right applications, robotics are a huge improvement for the process.
The projection of 5 million jobs lost by 2020 to technology is serious, but it's not the main question. Construction, manufacturing, services, public health and education, these industries will still exist. The main question is, what will be the future of work? How will we define work? How will we share the wealth?
From the viewpoint of the labor or jobs, now we really need new education or new training.
We're working with a World in Motion in FIRST Robotics, trying to encourage students from 3rd grade all the way up through the end of high school. We had students make sailboats, and then we had them race them, and so they could see how quickly they could move. And they immediately went back and started to say, oh, I saw what happened, I'm going to go change this or that. And that was 3rd graders.
I've just given a prize to a kid of 18 years old that has discovered something really very, very unique. Came up with how to get better productivity and better yields for seeds of corn. And so he basically came with the idea that if you would perforate these seeds, you would get more food. And you think about it and say, but he didn't go to university. So how does he get all that knowledge? And he told me, I've been watching YouTube since the age of 12, and I'm so interested that I've seen everything about it. I've read everything about it. The world is really open to learning. The thing is, how do you give the incentive to your kids to do that?
It's this ability of digital technology to change outcomes, to truly empower people all over the world that can create a more equitable growth, because I think the world needs that.
Fourth industrial revolution has the potential to make inequalities visible and to make them less acceptable in the future, and hopefully to gather and garner political support to take the necessary decision to reduce the gap.
Humans have always been using tools, but because of the recent advances in technology, we're beginning to have machines that can augment us in all sorts of interesting ways.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot by exciting the nervous system using electrical stimulators directly onto the spine. We believe that a cure will be possible if enough of the right people have the will to fast-track a cure for paralysis.
We take two things from the patient. First, we take a 3-dimensional X-ray and we extract the 3-dimensional data out of that so we can make a perfectly shaped puzzle piece. And then we also take a sample of fat tissue from the patient so that we can extract the stem cells out of those. And we use those stem cells with this 3-dimensional scaffold that we fabricate, and after 3 weeks we have a piece of living bone that's ready for implantation.
Being able to use genome editing to understand the genetic changes that lead to cancer, and technologies like drug delivery, getting molecules into particular types of cells. There's a lot of excitement about being able to move much more quickly on this disease.
One of the things that I think is so essential to free and open societies is freedom of thought. And up until now, the conversation we've been having is around freedom of speech. Once we can access people's thoughts and access people's emotion, we have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts. And in a society where people fear having those thoughts, the likelihood of being able to enjoy progress is significantly diminished.
All right, guys, I'm coming back to my session. Hope that gives a trigger basically about the 4.0, that the 4.0 industrial revolution, it is covering all aspects of our life. It is going to touch every individual of us in all aspects: how we live, how we work, how our industries will be, what will be the impact of the technology in each engineering domain. That's what every engineering sector have to look in, what this revolution is bringing in, what this technology adoption, which goes in line with our academics today, what is being taught in the books, and what is today industry is evolving, that has to be aligned. Right, so that was basically the fourth revolution. Let me now reiterate a few words on that. So we stand on the brink of technology revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live and work. In its scale, scope, and complexity, transformation will be unlike anything humankind has ever experienced in the past. So that is what is going to happen with 4.0. That all the revolution that we have seen in the past and what we see today, the 4.0 is going to have a major impact. And we do not yet know exactly, how this technology will unfold. We are talking about AI. Today, we are talking about ML. Today, we are talking about AR. Today, we are talking about VR, the augmented reality, the virtual reality, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, 3D printing, drone. There are many technologies we are talking about, which is going to touch the industries as well as our lives. So this is basically the industry has to basically look at how, to respond to this in an integrated manner, which will comprehensively look at, address the society problems as well as, the industry needs. So it's a new chapter in human development, which is basically merging the physical, digital, and the biological world. 4.0 basically have brought this or diminished the lines of physical world, the digital world, as well as the biological world. So today we are not physically closer to each other, but still we are delivering the session. We are using the technology to deliver, to to communicate, to deliver, to address whatever the conferences are. Earlier time when I was in Nokia and Siemens in early 2000, we used to have all the physical meetings. We used to go, wherever we used to have the meetings in Germany, in Switzerland, in Finland, wherever it is. Globally, people have to travel. Today, we can't imagine how drastically these changes are coming in our lives. So that is using the technologies in a way that create both promise as well as peril. We need to look at how best we can utilize the technology and what are the threats pertaining to it. Of course, this has a huge speed, the velocity, the speed, the breadth, and the depth of this revolution, which has forced us to rethink how countries should develop, how the technologies and industries should develop, how organizations create value to the customers. Every industry have to go out of the box and think what this change means for them. And with that, we see that with this COVID, we have basically learned a lot of things. So we have to embrace the technology. We have to adopt it. We have to see that how this technology will bring the change in the space, in the domain, in the area where I operate and where you operate. So every engineering stream today, every science stream today, every management stream today, all those academic blocks today we have in our universities and colleges have to basically realign ourselves, basically going forward, how to embrace this change which is coming in, how to inculcate this change in our education system, which is basically expected from the market. So World Education Forum talks about the fourth revolution, and it has identified many domains, many areas, as we see over here. If you all have time later on, you guys can basically look at World Economic Forum. I will share my link as well as the data with Dr. Nisar. Probably he will share with all of you. So if you go and read those, the fourth revolution, which is being discussed globally today, we will come to know that what are the changes which are coming in. As we see that here, there are few major blocks being identified, and every block has got a connect further, like agile technology and governance. It talks about a lot of technology sectors, technology areas. What is the governance behind them? How basically the overall process has to be governed. Then it talks also about the agency and trust. That is, every individual has got a data and the privacy. Your data and my data is basically on the internet today. How to ensure that this data is protected, how we get the privacy out of it. Technology innovation has many aspects to look at. I have a couple of slides to share on that. So again, when I talk about technology innovation, every domain it touched this construction industry, it touched the automobile industry, it touched the all other construction management and any other industry we talk about today. Oil and gas sector, we talk about education sector. All those sectors are being touched by this 4.0 revolution. So this has been World Economic Forum has identified few blocks which are the fundamental changes which are required, to be adopted by the both educational institutions as well as the industries to embrace, to adapt to what is the need which is coming up. So let me focus few of those areas. As I said, agile technology and governance, talk many different aspects. It talks about digital communication, talks about 5G, it talks about cybersecurity, it talks about corporate governance, it talks about blockchain. So these are the different areas which basically the agile technology and governance being touched by the World Economic Forum. Similarly, if you move on, we talk about agency and trust, the digital communication, as I said, the IoT, the Internet of Things. Internet of Things are getting now integral part of every industry and every sector, which is basically going to touch. IoT is going to touch every industry and every sector which we are living today. So our systems, our construction industry has a major impact on it also. That is our home automation system, the smart city we are talking about, the smart industries we are talking about. So all those integration are going to happen through IoT and 5G. And that has, again, once this is basically being touched, as I said, the industry is going to move from 4 billion to 30 billion down the line within 5 to 6 years. So that is, almost 600-700% growth in each in that one sector itself. Actually, this is going to touch every industry, and that will basically bring up the new job opportunities. That will bring up and open up the new innovative and research domains. That will force the industries to rethink and evaluate themselves that how to adapt and sustain in the market. Similarly, 4.0 also talk about technology and innovation. Technology and innovation, if you see, there are different areas. It talks about blockchain, it talks about drones, it talks about 3D printing, it talks about other sciences and critical economies. Let me give an example. Recently, what we have done through blockchain for a project in Qatar. In Qatar, we have recently consulted the government, Qatar government, wherein the Qatar government want to regularize the real estate sector. They want to regularize the real estate sector, where they wanted to have the owner, the construction, the real estate company, as well as the the tenant. So there is a body called RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Authority. The owner who owns the building, who constructs the building, as well as the tenant. So all these three aspects they have covered through the blockchain technology. Using the blockchain technology, now every house has got the barcode called Makan. They have given the barcode to every individual flat and house through this technology, wherein once the building is being constructed, the power supply has to be provided, the water supply has to be provided, the permission has to be given, the norms has to be checked. And then once this building is ready, or the industrial blocks are ready to go live, they will basically connect this with the RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Authority. And the RERA basically again connects the tenants with the owner using the blockchain technology in construction industry, right? So this way, the owner, because the system is that I take a flat on rent, right? I have to go to the RERA office and I have to do the registration. At the same time, the owner also have to come there for the registration of my lease property, or whether it's a rented property, whatever it is. Yeah. So now with this system, neither the tenant have to go, nor the the owner have to go to the RERA office. All of them, they can complete the entire process using the blockchain technology, and they can even pay the rent. They can renew their flats, and they will have the document proof go ahead and apply for their visas and for any other purposes. So that is the technology, the blockchain technology, which is basically integrated in this real estate space. So this is basically a general purpose technologies like artificial intelligence can definitely have a profound consequence for society going forward. So some innovations, if we see that today in pharmaceutical sector, in digital economy, in AR, VR, all these things are having an essentially, the offshoots of an existing internet and mobile technology, what we are using today. Similarly, we're going to have the drones and the 3D printing that may create the new market and disrupt the existing network and the technology. So always the technology will have potential that it could disrupt the existing industries and the existing methodology. That's where today the artificial intelligence is being seen as one of the technology which may have an impact on the way we work today. So the technology innovation, that the technologies always have the potential to disrupt the technology industries, as we see, right? So as we see that the example we have in front of us, the steam engine, the automobile sector, the communication system, computer technologies. So this has disrupted the way we used to work in the past. We used to have the typewriting machines, right? In order for me, when I was in 99, when I was in Dubai, in order to communicate with my family, I have to record the cassette and send it to India. The communication was there, but it was very expensive. We used to have the typewriters. We used to have the fax machines. So the technology has changed the way we used to work, right? Today, it's a matter of second. If I have to communicate with my brother in Canada, I just pick up the phone and give a video call. So that is the change which is coming in. This change will have a huge impact. So you need to look at which industry you are coming from and what will be the impact of this technology. So artificial intelligence is coming up with 4.0 in a very big way. I have attended lots of international conferences as well as national conferences where artificial intelligence has been given the prime importance, and there are dedicated educational activities behind this, the research activities happening behind this globally, and this will be having a very major impact going forward on the industry. So moving on, I have picked up one more area, that is 3D printing. Again, in 3D printing, it has again different areas of prospects for the individual who are interested in this area. So this is basically, if you look at the 3D printing has already revolutionized the way that parts are designed and manufactured today. And this is going to also have impact on the construction industry going forward. The technology could help address the global shortage of affordable housing. Let me just try to move the screen. According to the World Resources Institute, the global affordable housing gap is expected to be 440 million households by 2025, depriving 1.6 billion people. So the technology expectation that the 3D printing may be able to help this. How it will do? The technology enables new, significantly faster and more economical approaches to the construction. The construction related 3D printing processes differ slightly from the traditional 3D printings, what we do today. So due to the size of the desired products. So this will have, a large mechanics system in place if, the 3D printing has to take over in future, So there is a huge probability that 3D printing will have definitely a major role to play in the construction industrial sector. So that is basically related to your sector. So what are the emerging technologies are we talking about? So the emerging technologies, as per Tech Skills 2020-2025, as stated, you can see over here. You might be wondering, where the construction sector will be lying into this. Where the construction sector? As I said, the industry application has to be looked at from the sector perspective. So these industries that are major upcoming skills which are required in the sector. So what are the skill set which would be basically fitting in to the construction or civil industry we need to look at, right? I gave an example of blockchain, right, sometime before. So that same way, we need to basically look at closely what are those areas that will have an impact onto a civil sector and which will drive the growth and which gets in line with Industrial Revolution 4.0. So 2020, again, World Education Forum talks about the following skills: analytical thinking and innovation. This has to be there as part of every industry. Then there will be a creative originality and as well as initiatives has to be taken, by every individual who is looking for the jobs coming in the future market. There will be a technology design and programming that need critical thinking and analysis. So as I said, these are the few highlighted growth areas which will have impact on every industry. We need to look at from the industry perspective, how this sector and what way this sector will have impact on our sector, on our industry, the civil industry I'm talking about. So here you look at, before the situation this, if we don't change, we say that changes are not possible. Then what will happen is, then we will be put aside. And the change will take place. The change will take place. If we don't change it, we will be basically move away from the industry. And industry will adapt to and industry will embrace the change which is coming up. So we need to basically look at every individual, have to see basically from their education background perspective, from their education sector background perspective, we have to look at what that changes for me, what that changes for my sector, what that changes for my industry, what and how basically I will enable myself to cater to this upcoming changes. So finally, the arrival of fourth revolution is distinct one compared to its rivals. The 4.0 IR is evolving at an exponential rather than a linear pace. With a high velocity, it has a lot of scopes, it will have major impact on the systems. It is all over. And it disrupt, the tech industries, every industry is going to disrupt. We need to look at what is in it for us, how to embrace that change, how to adapt to the changes, and then, try to look at the industry, what industry is expecting from us today. So I think with that, I am done with my slide. Maybe I will have, actually I have some backup slides, but maybe, I would ask the organizer to let the questions come in.
Yes, sir. The participants can ask the questions now.
Good morning, sir. This is Dr. Guru Prasad. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm Dr. Guru Prasad. Sir, what you mentioned now is that IR 4.0 is
you are saying like we'll be tapping that TMR
I think there is some disturbance. Somebody else is also speaking.
That is, we have to adapt to it. And as you suggested, sir, artificial intelligence is actually getting into each sector of industry. Now, the whole point is what I would like to know is in the field of construction industry, especially in analysis and design sectors, especially in consultancy. The thing is, we are having a particular modality which we carry out for analysis or design, let it be in any part of the world. So I just wanted to get your insight on this. How will artificial intelligence be applied in this particular sector of analysis and design of structures, especially? If you could throw some light on it, sir.
Yeah. So AI, as we discussed, AI is something which is coming up in a very big way. AI is all about artificial intelligence. So it is artificial intelligence versus human intelligence. If I take the question this way, today we are basically using these tools, the softwares, CAD/CAM softwares, with the human intelligence, with the design aspects that we have in mind, or we can probably be able to come up with, right? Now, what this AI is going to do? Let me give an example that in Dubai, there is a group called IMAR. The IMAR is having hundreds of projects running across the country. And every project has got some uniqueness in terms of design, in terms of, the material being used, in terms of its architecture, in terms of structure. So what AI does, actually AI does not act right in the beginning. What AI does, it has basically the passive learning mechanism. So what it does basically is it passively read and understand your behavior, your system usage, your data analysis. It does something called BI and AI, business intelligence and business analysis. So what it does over the period of time, once it understands the pattern that we work today, it then start giving you recommendations. For example, if you use, let's say, if you use Office M365 today, Office 365 today, if you try to do some presentation building, when you put some contents, what it does, it gives you a design idea on the right hand. Probably you have seen that, right? So it gives you the design idea. So how that PowerPoint is trying to understand what you're trying to achieve. So when you use the tool, when you start giving some inputs, it basically takes from the past, what has been done for such activity, then it gives you the recommendations. So in your question, the answer is not very straightforward, but the answer is basically over the period of time, as I was giving an example of Imar, one of the very big construction company in Dubai, they have tons of projects, right? So in that case, in that scenario where AI is being implemented using the tools, all the tools which are being used in CAD/CAM design, AI may able to give the different ideas. If you try to do some design, it may give you an idea that the design can be done this way. Because it has the past reading, it has something called knowledge base, which is being, read over, or it basically takes it from the past, that what you have done for such activity while you are designing such activity, it will give an idea, basically, how to adapt it. I hope that gives you some idea about it.
Designs, what you suggested in just a company, what you suggested, sir. Does it?
Can you please speak up? The voice is very low.
Can you please hear me, sir? You hear me, sir?
Yeah,
I can. Sir, you suggested about CAD/CAM designs, where application of AI is there in the CAD/CAM designs in one of the company which you just suggested. I just, as you said that the CAD/CAM particular softwares or the packages which are used, it tends, AI applications in that tends to give it the features that this can be done or not. So is it related to optimization?
It is related to both the new design as well as optimization.
Okay.
If you're doing the new design, it gives you the design idea. If you are optimizing the existing pattern, right? You're having maybe an existing, the design, for example, you imported it into the tool. What it does, it reads your input, the new input, and it will correlate it. It does in the backend something called BI, business intelligence, and then analyze the data, which is already there in the system. And then it will start giving you the recommendation on optimization as well.
So there's one more.
That answers your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Dr. Lokesh is asking, can you elaborate on how the national education policy will be able to address Industrial Revolution 4.0?
Well, national education policy is directly not related to the Industrial Revolution 4.0. However, since I discussed this topic, NEP 2020, NEP 2020 is an if you look at NEP 2020, there has been a lot of focus given on skills. Today, any industry, even during my company, while I was in Nokia and Siemens, as well as in my current company as well, if I have to hire, I basically look at the skills. What skill set do you bring into the company? What skill set that you have to offer, right? Rather, I will, not look at the academic degrees. Somebody is holding MTech in civil or structural design or whatever specialization, but rather what I would see is what is your skill set actually, what you have done, what kind of projects you have executed, what is your internship, what you have done in your projects, what you have done in your internship. So that will basically add value to the company rather having the degree. So now coming back to new education policy, what NEP is talking about. NEP is definitely going to address 4.0 because NEP in itself fundamentally have inculcated the skills along with regular academics. So today NEP talks about BVOC, Bachelor's in Vocational Studies. So where you will able to, there are some programs I will discuss now, that one of the program in BVOC is called MEP, Mechanical Electrical Plumbing. It's talking about its design, it's talking about the the physical parameter, the practical parameter that need to be addressed when you go and work in the industry. So similarly, MEP is also talking about the designing tool like Revit or BIM, those tools it is being talking about. So every aspect of education in NEP basically talking about that any domain you are coming from, the skills has to be attached with the academics to bridge the gap between academics and the job industry. Today, the academics students are coming out, let's say, at this level, whereas the industry expectation is at this level. I hope you can see my hand, right? So there is a huge gap here between these two. So what this new change of policy will do is it will bring this level to this level, where a student or the pass out, whoever is coming out to industry, they will basically be having a practical exposure. They will have to work in the industry 60% of the time. That's what NEP 2020 talks about. The candidate have to be in the industry for 60% while doing the academics. So with that, he will have the required practical exposure to get the job. So in that context, I would say that 4.0 will definitely be addressed through the skill-oriented or skill education through NEP 2020.
Anyone else who wants to ask a question? Participants can come forward and ask the questions now. Or you can post it in your chat box. Yes, sir, please.
Sir, could you please elaborate on the future of 3D printing in buildings, especially in the civil engineering domain?
Let me bring you to the World Education Forum, what they are talking about this. Yeah. So it basically says that, the 3D printing may able to help the construction industry. How? The technology enables new, significantly faster and more economical approaches to the construction. Today, if you have to construct a house, it needs a lot of labor, it needs manpower, it needs material. There are a lot of, we see basically today how the construction is being done in India, right? So now this 3D printing, basically with the 3D printing, it's talking about construction related 3D printing processes that differs basically slightly from, of course, what is currently done. Why? Because the construction industry has huge blocks and huge sizes where the overall system has to work, right? So it talks about the robotic arms that moves via railways or that are installed around the building areas as they extrude concrete layer by layer. So that process can be done through the robotic and 3D printing process. So that way, basically, the construction, speed will be increased. There will be less manpower. Today, every industry is facing the issue of manpower, the skilled manpower, not talking about manpower. If you just talk about manpower, today Times of India says that 80% of the Indian graduates are unemployed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the skilled manpower. There is a huge shortage of skilled manpower in the industry. Since I am basically in the industry, I am watching this very closely. We ourselves, today we have hundreds of jobs to be offered, but the challenge is there is a shortage of skilled manpower. So when you have this kind of 3D printing mechanism in place, the robotic system in place, it can do a lot of work that too at a very faster pace. So that is the future of 3D printing.
Yeah, sir, actually through 3D printing's implementation, there is probability also of job loss for people who are there in the construction industry, especially the labor sector.
Well, I will tell you in a different way. If you remember, in early 90s, I remember actually, while I was studying that, there were a lot of dharnas in parliament, in front of parliament, in front of assemblies, every state, saying that computer is coming in India and it will take away the jobs.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So do we see today that how many jobs that this industry has created? Actually, see, we are having a legacy thinking. We need to just come out of it. Why? Because industry is coming up with new ideas, right? The new innovations. So this new innovation need new manpower. So it is not going to replace, of course, the people. The people have to increase their skill set to adapt and to meet the expectation of this 4.0. So jobs will not go away. Rather, it will create more jobs, but skill-oriented jobs. Earlier, people used to work without the skills as well, on the construction side.
Yes.
But now, without safety officer, for example, in Gulf countries, they don't allow any construction to take place unless the safety officer CV is attached. Until the QA/QC engineer CV is attached, they don't allow. So there is a huge scope. Our civil engineers are coming. I have been going and addressing career conferences in many colleges and universities. When I ask basically, the civil guys, what you will do, most of the time they end up saying that I will do site engineer work. Site engineer, you will not have a lot of opportunities. You have to basically see that what are the new areas, quality QA/QC engineer. Hardly there are people available in the market in civil. QA/QC engineers, quality assurance, quality control engineers, safety engineers, in designing area, there are many opportunities, but people are not going for it because there is very less awareness. So I hope that addresses your question, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir. And coming to the 3D printing equipment's cost, like,
Yeah.
because right now we have seen very few 3D printed structures which are coming up in our country too. It's still in a research phase. So what you would like to throw light upon? I will request you to throw some light upon the 3D printing equipment's cost and its reusability. Because if a particular structure of a certain size is there, and if this is being used for printing that structure using the concrete itself, as you suggested, sir, after that is done, maybe if it's a bigger size structure or it may be a smaller size structure, can the same be used, the same kind of the 3D printing equipment be used, or should it be upgraded?
See, actually, the 3D printing tool, the 3D printing technology, somehow it has to be it should have a flexible and customizable model. It should not be a fixed kind of frames, The frames, it should basically able to produce as required, not as designed. Remember this very important point. As required, not as designed. So you develop a technology and, the blocks, the 3D design, which basically fills only one size. If that is the requirement, that can be done. But, required as designed, as the design required, every area has a different dimension, right? And different fit. So the technology, the machines, the 3D printing, which is going to come, it should basically cater and it should be customizable, which should meet the design requirement. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And also, let me just highlight one area. You said, what about future, right? I said, India is going to be an Atma Nirbhar Bharat. So what we expect here, our people should be enabled. Our people should be technology, aware. They should be enabled. It has to go to the grass level, the awareness, the enablement, and the skills. So that's what NEP talks about. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any more questions?
So if there are no questions, so thank you very much, Dr. Shaik, for your very impressive, informative talks applied with videos, case studies, and all. So especially on the real usage of Industrial Revolution 4.0, the changes, the distortions, and it is true that it brings a lot of distortions, and it is true that distortions always brings the opportunity. We need to endorse the changes, adopt the changes, moving from knowledge base to skill base. So once again, on behalf of Ramaiah Institute of Technology and also the Department of Civil Engineering, so I thank you all for sparing your valuable time and then for this wonderful the talk. Thank you so much. Thanks to all audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, the participants, I kindly request you to join us for the third session. It starts at 2:30. Please join in by 5 or 10 minutes early so that there won't be any issues. Now, we'll close the session for now. Thank you all. Meet you at 2:30.